Right. You're waiting
some
for
people
that
could
moment.
say, well, maybe that's a very dangerous thing to do, and maybe it is. But having had that happen, we walked in, whoop, here's this spirit energy goes right through us. And you talk about, like you hear on the TV shows where everything is just electrical, you break out into goosebumps, the hair on your arms stand up. Well, that scared the crap out of us because it was our very first investigation.
Right.
We
so
weren't
really
expecting it.
that.
We thought, okay, well, maybe if we're lucky, maybe we'll get a couple of EVPs. That'll be cool.
Right.
And we hadn't expected to be rushed completely with this energy that went straight through us. And I have to admit, that's the only time I've ever been afraid, and I actually ran. And we boomed down out of the attic right down to the main floor. And once we calmed down, we thought, okay, hold on a second. This is why we're here, is because we're actually looking for what just happened. Why are we running? And I've never run since from anything that's ever happened.
Right, but it's unexpected, right? And that's something that, in that moment, because you've never experienced it before. It's like I was saying about my experience when I was like 18 or 19. I'm not sure if you were listening to the first half of the hour, but at the house when it happened, it was just like, that was my first, was like, oh my God, I need to get out, right? But, we sort of didn't have the option, and we ended up being in the same, just went downstairs. But the custom house, that's an interesting, because I used to do the tours in there, and my husband and I did the tours through there, and I know of that presence there on the third floor, and that's why I asked you about the mirror, because it really the mirror is a little bit off-putting too when you first walk into that dark space and you catch that reflection in that big mirror that's there on that mantle. And, which is literally, used to be on the fireplace that was downstairs, but when they renovated, they didn't replace that mantle back on it, right? They brought it upstairs, and it's been in the attic ever since. But
That's
my
right.
thing, and I'm going to ask you if you've ever, and because you're not really sensitive, but let me ask you if Trudy has ever experienced this. When I used to do the tours there, we actually have some really cool photos of very strange light anomalies in the storage room, right? The room where there's supposedly the body, et cetera, that story.
Right.
But there is the other, which was the servant's staircase. And so when you left the storage room, and that's where that tunnel used to come in from the railway from down under the hill, right? Because they had that tunnel that used to come up so they could bring the goods right into the lower part of the custom house and store them. When that collapsed and there were homeless people trapped in there and that, right? So people died in that incident. So you still have that energy throughout there. But the room next door where you would come out and you would go, there was the servant's staircase that went up to the back. I had every single time I did a tour, I could not go in that room. I would literally put my hand on the doorknob and I'd back away and I'd have to get Ed to open the door. And I could not enter that space at all. And I would, tour goers were free to go in there, but I could not go in there. The very first time I ever went in that space, I had the worst experience in terms of what had happened in that space. And it was a very frightening experience, not in terms that I was frightened, but for the person, because, and I don't know if you know this, and I know that a couple of other psychic people that are mediums have picked up on this, but there was a young, I'm going to say, probably, maid servant / girl working possibly at the custom house at the time, who was, how do I put this delicately? What's the word I'm looking for? Violated in that space on the staircase.
I know the story, yes.
Yeah, that energy resides in that room. It's horrible. And I cannot go in that space. That is the only space in the custom house that I still have an issue with. And it's, at that time, I got everything, like everything. It was like I was trapped in that moment with her on the stairs. I felt everything that happened to her. So for me, it's like, yeah, I don't want to revisit that. Right? But
Yeah.
I could never open the door. Like it was just, it was like I felt like her after the incident. Right? It was like she was terrified to go. And wouldn't you be? Yes, you would be. You would be terrified to have to relive that, or even the possibility of reliving that. But that energy is trapped in that space. And it's not like she's trapped there, but it's that residual energy that resides in that space, in that building.
Right.
And it's just, it's intense, right? And it's like upstairs you get, Walter physical, that actual energy of a spirit. But this is a residual energy, but it's such an intense residual energy in there. And it's just, I did not enjoy the the play-by-play that I received on that, through that energy. But it is a very fascinating building, and it's a beautiful building. And Rachel, when things get better and you're able to get over here, we are going to take you, right? Ian will get her, and we'll take her to all these cool spots. We can tell her all these stories.
Yes,
for sure.
When you go to England next, I will take you to the hotel that I talk about.
Yeah.
I would love to go over to England, Rachel. That is my. People ask me, what's my wish list for paranormal investigation, and I would love to go over to England and Scotland. And there are so many locations.
Going this fall.
It's rich with history.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
I was supposed to take a dark history tour group over in October of this year for that reason. And we were staying, Ian, we were going to be staying at Chillingham Castle and doing an investigation at Chillingham Castle.
I know of it.
So
yes, indeed.
I would like to go to Chillingham Castle.
Yeah, as things come and, sort of sort themselves out in the next year or so, maybe in 2022, Rachel, maybe we can redo that. We can revisit that.
That would be wonderful.
It gives us time to save, but also gives us time to create. Because I was working with a travel agent friend of mine who was doing all of the booking side of it. So she was getting all the good discounts and all the great places to stay. And then I was booking, we had actually booked some really fun, some of the ghost tours and things of, London and stuff like that, because you really want to kind of get that feel too, right? You want to get that sort of touristy feel of it. But then we had opportunities to go and do investigations in places that normally, you wouldn't get into, right? So that was something really fun. So I'm going to revisit that. I stay in contact with the people that I worked with for that. And we'll, think about that, Ian, maybe 2022 in October, we can all get over there and do some investigating, which would be really fun, I think, too.
Oh, right? Great.
Yeah, we'll do it.
That would be awesome.
Absolutely. Lots to look forward to.
We'll do it in October. Yeah, so lots of things to look forward to. So super exciting. So I have one more question for Ian, because we're kind of rolling up to, can you believe it? It's almost 10 minutes to the end of the show. Again, it always goes by so quick. The one thing I want to ask you, Ian, is just in terms of what you do as a paranormal investigator, and we were talking about Poltergeist, and you've told us about that. Sort of, what is your favorite piece of equipment? See, I don't really use equipment, but I'm always curious, with investigators who do. My husband really loves EVP and that. What's your kind of favorite? What do you kind of go to that you think gives you the best results when you're on an investigation?
My favorite is, without a doubt, the SB7 Spirit Box. Are you familiar with that piece of equipment?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. For those who are not, it's basically a hacked radio that scans over radio station frequencies
white
at a
noise,
very rapid rate, creating a white static noise, which is traditionally believed that spirits can use that as a conduit to speak to.
I can traditionally say that I've been on investigations where that's happened more than once.
Oh, yeah. It's a wonderful
phenomenal
piece of equipment.
It is.
Just last weekend, we were in Niagara-on-the-Lake at St. Mark's Cemetery.
Okay,
and we were investigating the gravesite of a little girl named Sarah Ann, who is affiliated with Fort George.
Right.
Her father was an officer who sued her,